It started as a normal evening. A man sorting old tools to sell before moving houses. He posted his power drill on Craigslist for $80, and within an hour, replies poured in. One man wanted to come that night, offering full price. At 4:30, half an hour early, there was a knock. Outside stood a man beside a red car, mid-40s, thin smile. Something about his quiet stare made the seller's stomach twist. They met in the driveway. The buyer tested the drill, then suddenly said, "How about $20?" The seller refused, and the man drove off without another word. But that night, through his window, the seller saw the same red car parked 3 houses down, engine off, lights out. Hours passed, then came a knock. "Hey, it's me, I've got the money." His voice was too calm. The seller called the police, heart pounding. Moments later, bang! A crash on the side of the house. He peeked out just in time to see the man limping toward his red car. Police sirens filled the street. The man confessed he'd planned to break in through a second-story window, but fell, breaking his leg. The seller realized how close he'd come to being another Craigslist headline, and from that day, he never opened his door to strangers again.
Aaron's ad sounded innocent. A room for rent in a quiet forest house. Cheap rent, friendly host, peaceful surroundings. The new tenant loved it, except one thing: a locked door at the end of the hallway. When asked, Aaron would smile and say, "Just storage." But every night, strange sounds echoed: footsteps, floor creaks, a faint metallic click. One night, half awake, the tenant heard Aaron's door open. Footsteps moved down the hall, then stopped outside his room. Silence. Then the faint sound of a key turning, not his lock, but the locked door. Curiosity turned to terror as it happened again the next night. Finally, one evening, when Aaron went down that hall again, the tenant followed, whispering his name. Aaron froze, then sprinted straight out the back door into the woods. Trembling, the tenant turned toward the open door. A staircase led into darkness. The air reeked of mold and rot. Something deep inside screamed, "Don't go down there." He fled the house, drove away, and never looked back. Years later, he found the house online, demolished after criminal remains were discovered in the basement. Aaron vanished forever, and the tenant realized sometimes what hides behind a locked door is locked for a reason.
3 years ago, a young man found a cheap TV listing on Craigslist. The seller, Mitch, sounded nice and even sent a Google Calendar invite labeled Craigslist TV. Weird but harmless. When the buyer arrived, all the lights were on. He knocked, and a tall man, not Mitch, opened halfway. "You need something?" the stranger asked coldly. The buyer hesitated. I'm here about the TV?" The man nodded, motionless, then stepped aside. "Yeah, come in." The buyer's gut screamed, "Don't." He grabbed the cash, placed it on the table, and pointed at the TV. The stranger snatched the money and shoved him hard toward the door. "Leave." Heart racing, the buyer called the police. Minutes later, they discovered the real Mitch unconscious inside, beaten, robbed, tied up. The man pretending to be him was another buyer who'd attacked him and used the fake listing to lure new victims. He was caught days later, identified through the metadata of that same calendar invite. The buyer realized he had almost walked into the same trap. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't about ghosts or monsters. They're about real people wearing normal faces.